excuse me.
Yeah, I got to go. I'll call you back later. Bye-bye.
What's your dream?
Hey, you're Simon Squibb.
I am, yeah. I want to know what your dream is. You're Steve, right?
I'm Steve.
Yeah, your stuff's so amazing. Tell me, what is your dream, mate?
You know, of course, I want to sell more jets, but I really, really enjoy energizing, inspiring all the younger generation. It's fantastic. I get so uplifted. You know what? Actually, my dream right now is to do a podcast. You would be great to do it with. Welcome to Above the Noise. This is a podcast where we cut through all the chaos and talk about the things that matter and the mindset of those operating at the top of their game. And today I have somebody with me who's an entrepreneur, he's an investor, he's a relentless advocate for everything to make people achieve their dreams. We have Simon Squibb with us. Simon.
Oh, thanks
welcome.
for having me.
Thanks a lot for coming. Really, I want to hear your story because I connect so much, especially with your beginning. I'd say I appreciate and I'm really happy to hear that story. I know it sounds mean because people would say, why would you wish that on anybody? But I sort of think that it's really harder at the beginning, but it really helps you later in life.
Totally agree.
Can you sort of take us through your early days and really how you got started and how all your misfortunes really turned you into what you are today?
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it, by the way. Misfortunes turned you into who you are today. Because I think bad luck and good luck are both still luck. So when I was 15 years old, sadly, my father suddenly died. He was only 54 years old of a heart attack. He actually died right in front of me, which was pretty crazy. Even as I'm talking about it now, I can literally remember it like it was yesterday.
So sorry.
And then suddenly he was gone. That was it. And so that moment suddenly changed everything. And 3 weeks after my father died, my mother and I had a big argument. And she said, my way or the highway. And I took the highway.
Wow.
And I...
So what did you do?
Well, initially I left, just walked out the front door of
Not
the house,
knowing where you're going to go,
shouting.
where you're going to sleep that night, nothing.
And I originally just went to the local park. I live in a small town called St Neots, which is just near Cambridge in England, for those that are listening overseas. And I slept on a roundabout. You know, like a thing in a park.
Yeah,
exactly. And I slept there because it was above the ground. So, of course, I didn't want to be on the ground itself. And it was such a strange thing. But I thought it was just going to be for one night, you know. And then I woke up the next day. Well, I say I woke up. I didn't really sleep, to be honest. And I just felt, in a strange way, a bit liberated. Although suddenly, you know, in this horrible situation, and then I thought, I know, I'll get a job. So I went around all the local businesses trying to get a job. And because I didn't have a national insurance card, you need this number in England to get a job. Everybody pretty much said they couldn't give me a job. And so basically I slept on the street for about a week before I started to realize that no one's going to give me a job. I was starting to smell. And I asked a friend if I could go and stay with them, so they let me come and stay with them for a few days.
It took you a week to think that
Just
one.
over a week, yeah. Wow.
And you didn't have any feeling that maybe you should go back and apologize to your mother?
I just couldn't. I was so upset, and I think I'm almost embarrassed to tell the story in some respects now because I feel I'm married to someone from Asia. She's from Hong Kong, and she really respects her parents, and parents are very revered. But I think at that time I realised that my mum wasn't someone I personally actually liked, and I'm sure she's got her side of the story, but I just felt it was time for a change. And so I felt like a sense of relief that I could be me. Although it was horrible living on the street, it was freedom in a weird, twisted way. And then I stayed at a friend's house for a few days, and then I went back out on the street because I didn't want to impose on friends. And I stayed at another friend's house for a few days, and I basically lived like that for 2 or 3 weeks.
Were you in school at the time?
I left school completely that day. The day I walked out of the house, I no longer went to school.
So you never finished school?
I never went. Well, actually, I went back for my GCSE exam. I went back and did my exams for the 2 days. So I actually went back just for the exams, but I did really badly, as you'd expect. But I basically went to social services and said, I'm homeless. And they said, no, you're not. You can just go back home. And I tried to explain that, I don't have a relationship with my mother and I can't go home. But they didn't see me as priority. They're like, well, you can go home, can't you?
I mean, 15 years old. I mean, it's sort of like, just shut up, kid. Go back to your mother and say you're sorry. And,
totally,
grow up.
Yeah. And I think, I just didn't feel comfortable going home. And so that wasn't an option. And then social services said they couldn't help me and I couldn't get a job. And this is when something changed in me. And this is something that I really am grateful for. I called it the moment the entrepreneur muscle woke up in my brain.
Kicked in just then.
So I walked past this big house, and the house, clearly they had money, but the garden was a mess. And I remember thinking to myself, well, they must have money to pay me to clean up that garden. So somehow I got the courage to walk up to the front door and knock on the door and say, hi, my name's Simon Squibb and I've got a gardening company. Would you let me take care of your garden? And the person let me. They said yes, which, you know, my first ever proper sale, and they said yes, which is lucky. You need someone to say yes to you that first time to give you the confidence that you know what you're doing. And that's it. I had a gardening company.
That's
someone
amazing.
paying me to take care of their garden.
And you think that was obviously the turning point. When people ask people, you know, what was the point in your life? That was really where you had no choice, right? I mean, they sleep on the street again. And your mother never went out looking for you, or the police or social services never said you're 15, you have to live at home?
None of that. I
Wow.
think it's, and I know it sounds weird perhaps in this day and age, but I felt like I was an adult. And in many respects, this is, 35 years ago, I was on my own. And I kind of enjoyed that freedom. No one telling me who I was anymore, what I had to be, or that A was success and D was failure. And the first day I did a sale, the first time that person said yes, I thought, wow, this is really interesting. You can have an idea in your head and you can make it real if you can sell. That's when I first became obsessed with selling as a general concept. Like, wow, no one taught me this at school. Nobody taught me this was possible in school, that I could make something from nothing. There's an idea that's in my head I can make real. The phone that people are listening to this podcast on was once an idea in someone's head. The chair you're sitting on was once an idea in someone's head. They made it real and then they sold it.
So you think it's more, an ego thing, a confidence thing, a necessity?
I've invested in thousands of people at this point in my life. And what I've noticed is lots of people want it. Everybody listening probably wants to be successful. But the people that actually made it don't just want it. They need it. They need it. And once you learn to feel that feeling of need, and you never lose it, you can tap back into it every time and push through the pain or perceived pain, and you can do anything.
Yeah, need is depends on why they need it, right? One is it's for your personal ego. One because you have to pay to put food in your mouth. But that kind of a thing where you get forced into a situation where you just have to do it or die. It's rare that happens.
I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, no,
and
I agree.
I wouldn't want it to happen again. Of course, I wish my father was here. Of course, I miss him. But I think that stage in my life has given me the life I've got today. Financial independence, a happy marriage, a strong sense of purpose. And I think it all stems from that not just wanting it, but needing it. I actually wish for people to have a moment of pain so they can appreciate joy.
Yeah.
If you just go through life in a bubble, the kind of middle class trap, I think that's the worst type of life. I think you should have pain because then you have a reason to enjoy the upside.
So what happened after you did that first job cutting the lawn, and then you decide, wow, this is a eye-opening experience? I mean, so what did you do from there? I mean, cut more lawns, or what did you do?
Well, 90% of businesses fail in the first year. You've heard that before, right?
Yes.
That's not true. That's a complete lie. So it's 23% of businesses fail in the first year in the UK, 64% fail in the first 3 years. So these are the stats thrown around to scare people about not to start your own business. I think everyone should start their
I'm
own
glad
business.
you told me. I'm giving a speech next week, and I use that 90%.
Yeah, it's a lie. So be careful. And it's a lie that's become so believable that entrepreneurs repeat it, and we make things worse for people that dream. And the truth is, the reason these stats also don't quite make sense is my gardening business failed within 9 months. It worked and then it failed because I didn't realize in England there's a winter. Someone should have told me. And when the winter came, everyone stopped the gardening and just cut me off, and that was it. I built a business up.
You get a shovel.
Well, I know, but then unfortunately, no one wants you to shovel anything. So my business failed. Now, the thing is, I made money, quite a lot of money, for 7 months, and then it failed. So I'm part of the stat, that 24% of businesses that fail in the first year.
So what did you do to recreate your business at that moment?
Well, I basically, at that moment, the thing is, the great thing about building a business is it failed, but I'd learned how to sell. I'd learned how to hire people wrong. By the way, I hired a lot of people in the wrong way. Like, hey, come and join me. No paperwork, no expectation, no clear PAYE structure, none of it. So I learned a lot of things by doing them wrong, but I learned how it all works. I learned what I'm good at. Turns out I'm quite good at knocking on doors, not very good at doing gardening. Mm-hmm. So I could figure out what I was good at, and then I got practiced until I got good at selling. And so I think basically, although the business failed, one, I made money. Two, I was no longer homeless. I managed to get myself a rented room. I could afford to actually have accommodation. And I got myself in a situation where I understood how to take something in your head and make it real. So when the business failed and I started to lose all the contracts, I initially got a job in a hotel. I was like, oh, right. And by this time I had a national insurance card so I could get a job. So I got a job, but by the time I got the job, that entrepreneur muscle in my brain was now fully active. And anyone that's first activated as entrepreneur muscle will know you can't stop thinking of ideas.
So you actually went from gardening to go working inside a hotel with a bunch of people. So you actually had to build a community of people that work around you. And did you feel, I mean, was that hard for you to do that? I mean, because obviously, community today is really everything, whether it's a social media community, whether it's, email community, whether it's your office, whether it's your friends. That community is so important today and staying connected to these people. So how did you feel?
Community, by the way, I hope people listen to that very carefully. The community is the superpower that a business today can have that a lot of the big companies don't actually tap into properly. So if you want to beat big companies, let's say Amazon, you want to compete. If you have a community, they don't really have a community. They have Amazon Prime, there's a paid membership, but there's no group of people hanging out together. If you have a group of people hanging out together, you can achieve anything. I think I have 14.4 million followers online. I don't see them as followers. I see them as community members. We're in this together to help one person a day with their dream. That's what's powerful. I didn't build it in my first company. I was just learning, just like hire people, get clients. It wasn't a community, it was a machine. I just needed to get people to do the gardens and get people to give me their gardens. But when I moved into the hotel environment, what I realized was that whole hotel, a lot of people were living in that hotel. We were like, and I know people hate this, but a family. And there was a sense. So when I started this business, Accommodation Express it was called, I got everybody in the hotel to help me.
There's almost two definitions of community. There's one that's your personal, physical community, amongst when you're out with your friends and people like that, family. And then there's a community, like you said, you have your 14 million, followers. It's the whole generational change has really been incredible.
I've actually been a bit shocked how I have actually made friendships with people online I've never met.
Yeah, the world's changed.
I feel
to be
genuine
that way.
connection.
Yeah.
So I was actually on a plane recently, and I was just before takeoff, and I was online, and this person came on who's been part of my community for 5 years. They came online and they said, enjoy your holiday, and then they told me where they're off to, and I genuinely felt happy for them. I felt this kind of happiness for them. They were going somewhere, and felt like, oh, thank you for saying enjoy my trip. I feel that natural connection. Imagine if the 14.1 million people following me all helped one person today.
Yeah, amazing.
The difference we could make to that person's life. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the exciting thing about online now. I think people should to home in on a bit more on.
I think those communities, those online communities. I mean, just think about, God forbid, your connection was like disconnected for a day. You'd feel like going in shivers. I mean, like what the hell's going on in the world? Tell me something. You started something called the Purposeful Project. Can you give me a little bit of background on how that got started and what that
5 years ago, I sold my company and I retired. And I thought, right, that's it. I don't need to work anymore. I thought I'd got to the point of that dream where you don't need to work anymore. And I'm like, okay, what should I do? So I played golf, did a lot of exercise, and then slowly I realized that actually I need to have a purpose. I can't just do nothing. I just can't do it. I need to be doing something useful. I need to be useful and I need to be seen. It's kind of the realization I had about myself. And then I thought back to that 15-year-old me where the education system had not helped me when I left school. And so I left school at 15. I've been in school 12 years at 15. It's a long time, 12 years. I didn't know how money worked.
It's not that long.
Well, it felt like a long time. 12 years of your life, it's a large chunk of your life. And I felt like I'd learned nothing. And so I couldn't even read, by the way, when I left, because I'm dyslexic. So I couldn't read. I didn't know how money worked. I couldn't sell. None of the things about how the world worked had been taught to me.
It's unbelievable.
So again, this entrepreneurial muscle in my brain just said, you know what? Build something that helps people, the 15-year-old me, get the knowledge they need for free to live a better life. So I just started going on TikTok and sharing my business knowledge. And I noticed that people really were interested in it because there was a lot of people on there selling courses, a lot of people selling fake guru stuff, Ferrari behind them they rented for a day. No one had actually built a company with nothing like I have done. And so I had this kind of edge, I guess, because I'd actually done it with no money and I was then sharing that knowledge and I wasn't selling anything. So I think that really resonated with people on social media and it just started to take off. I originally called it the Purposeful Project because I had it as a philanthropy idea in my head. I'd just do it for free. And then slowly the entrepreneur mind came to me and I said, actually, why don't I make this for profit, but do good with the profit? Because then I'm not asking anyone for money and I can scale this up. Because I now have full-time helping with this content, 29 people.
You're kidding me.
Full-time helping me. So I wanted to build a business that was for profit but did good with the profit. So then I stopped calling it the Purposeful Project because it sounded too philanthropic, and I now called it helpbank.com. And we basically help people for free. We don't charge people for help, but we do make money. We make money from social media. We make money from my book sales. We make money from our content and promotions and marketing. And I'm proud of it because
Listen,
we take
if you're
all that
helping
profit.
people and making money, what the hell?
Exactly.
This is a
I think that's
capitalist
the holy
world.
grail. And I've never asked anyone for money, so I'm not asking for charity-related donations. We are self-funded, and we are helping thousands of people every year. We're funding their dreams, giving them the money they need. We're promoting them for free, and we're giving them the knowledge they need and a community.
It's amazing.
All for nothing.
It's amazing.
So,
imagine when you were 15 years old to be hearing yourself right now talking.
Yeah.
I mean, I know when I started my social media, I thought I wanted to just sell some more airplanes. But actually, as a result of all the following we had, I found out this younger generation is so inspired by the authenticity of what we're saying. And that's exactly what you're saying. And that's why probably it's so popular, is because the authenticity, you have the experience, and you're not trying to sell them something, and it just becomes, they're getting through that, and they connect with it. What really makes you decide what kind of a company you want to invest in, or probably what kind of a person you want to invest in?
Yeah, 15 years ago, I started investing in businesses, so basically giving people money and taking equity. And so back in those days, I was a bit naive. I wanted to invest in, filling a market gap, businesses that I felt were, had a niche or could find something that wasn't done. And over the years, I changed my philosophy a bit because I realized, for something quite obvious, really, that people that are good will always find a way to make it work. I think people who actually are doing it because it matters, a bit like me, I will never stop till I fix the education system. So I don't need investment, but I'm a pretty good investment. Because I just live, breathe, and sleep this stuff. I could not work, but I choose to work because I know this is important, and you cannot stop me.
Today, the words that didn't even exist 20 years ago, like AI or cryptocurrency or robotics or augmented reality or longevity, these kind of things. There's so many opportunities in those things, and I don't know if the world's really catching on to that stuff, or if it's just like a Silicon Valley, focus, and you don't really see a lot of the younger generation sort of speak in that language. Do you see any of that?
I speak to hundreds of people every week, young people, about their dreams. So I've been doing like one of the largest human surveys by accident, by asking people in the street all over the world, what is their dream? And what I've noticed about young people, the actual truth, forget what the media tell us and our biases, most purposeful generation I've ever seen. So they don't just want to go work in an office for the sake of it. They don't want actually to work for a big brand and just for the sake of it. They want to feel that they're doing something about the problems in the world, be it climate change or health, well-being, mental health, and they want to fix problems.
And that came obviously through what everybody talks about social media being such a negative. But in fact, those things you're talking about, that's how these people get exposed to those
social
kind of
media is not
things.
negative.
So, there's so much positive by people being exposed in the world, what's going on in the reality of things. And whether you're talking about a disease or whether homelessness or poverty, it's really, they learn so much from, these different social media platforms. So I just think that, the world today, with the way it's so interconnected, from the satellites and Wi-Fi, and it makes you really in touch with everybody in the whole world in a second's notice.
I want what you're saying to go viral.
Yeah,
how can we make it go viral? I want people to understand, yes, they can't own a house right now. They can't own a house, but they can get 400 million views on one video promoting a product that they're selling, and it will cost you nothing more than the phone you probably already got on your hand and holding up to your face and saying what you're selling.
That's exactly
My
right.
platform gets over 500 million views a month. This is bigger than the BBC. We get more views on our channel than the BBC get. Okay, and I don't think people understand how easy it is right now. Now, this loophole's going to get closed. There's no way this amount of coverage is going to be free for much longer.
You're saying it's for free, but
It's
obviously
for free.
You're just giving them your information, which who cares?
Who cares?
Who cares?
But you can
take
launch
it.
a business and be bigger than Walmart.
Yes.
Walmart has to have all this physical infrastructure. You don't need to have it with drop shipping, which I'm not a big fan of as a product on its own. But if you have your own product and you use the systems of warehousing and delivery, you don't need drivers. You don't need warehousing. You can sell millions of products by end of next week. And if you don't believe that's true, then you are living in a naive, bubble that teaches you that opportunities are
in
not
denial.
there when they are.
You're in denial. Basically, you're always trying to find excuses
And you're looking
why
at the
not
negative.
to do
A lot
something.
of people, they can't buy a house. Okay, you will be able to buy many houses if you get on what right now is your competitive advantage. And right now, part of that competitive advantage is social media. And I believe in social media for social good. Yes, there's a lot of negative about social media. I totally understand that. But equally, you've got to see the positive in these tools and learn to leverage them.
When I see these younger people, they say, what do I have to do to get started? Listen, Nike tells you what to do. Just do it. I mean, just get started. I mean, step over that line. I mean, it's too easy online, and people need to take advantage of having this connectivity and really be able to grab all the opportunity in the world that's at their fingertips for free.
Yeah. The irony is that actually sometimes people have it too easy. They can just drift, like I think to go and build something, to go and achieve something, the journey is the fun bit. The battle, like 5 years ago I had 0 followers, 0. In some respects that stage is the funnest part. Nothing to lose. Now I've got something to lose. I make one wrong video, I'm going to get cancelled. It's all gone, right? But building it up in those early days, it's like, this is great. If you go back, I never deleted any of my TikToks. If you go back and look in the very early TikToks, you'll see me playing with my son in the Zoom with crap filters and bad background music, trying to figure out how these apps work. I kind of miss those days because now we're so scientific about it because we don't want to muck up the channel. People need to enjoy the process, like go and put themselves out there, learn stuff. That's all life is about anyway. It's one big learning curve.
I think one of the only real negatives, if you want to call it that, of social media is people are afraid of being negatively judged. And it's a terrible thing because I don't think anybody judges you anyway. I mean, everybody's so busy in their own life.
Less
right?
than you think. Yeah.
You say, oh man, I got to, wear this outfit. I have to drive this car. I have to live in that house because I want, what people think of me. Nobody thinks of you. I mean, okay, your family, of course, but I mean, in general, people use that ego really works against them and makes them
sometimes they're judging you, but they're also jealous of you.
Well, of course, they're jealous of you, and nobody wants to see you succeed because that makes them feel better of themselves if you're doing worse than I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I just think that being afraid, the fear of being negatively judged is really probably the biggest reason why people don't go forward.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that people just got to say.
Yeah.
It
just be you. I mean, I think lean into you. Again, like you remind me of a story. When I first sold my company, a private bank was trying to court me to pool my money with them, and they organised a round table dinner with 20 other people that had sold their company that were their clients, and so we were all there. And then they were asking me, what are you going to do? We were all talking about what we're doing since we sold our companies, and all these guys around the table were talking about they're buying property and doing this, and I said, what I was doing, I just started going on TikTok. I've been giving advice, and literally the whole table laughed at me. Like it was they thought I was joking. Yeah. And they're like, "Oh, really? You're on TikTok?" Like, no, seriously, I'm going on there to educate people about business, and they laughed at me. Without a word of a lie, every single one of those people on that table have pinged me in the last 24 months and asked me to help them with their TikTok.
I mean, you must have had some failures in your life, right? I mean,
many.
So, how does that, obviously, I know for me, it makes me a better person. It gives me an incredible lesson. But what's one of your worst failures that you had that really taught you a lesson? How did you pick yourself up and start again?
So I've had so many failures, and I think each of them have different learnings from them. So I started a cafe business in Hong Kong, for example, called Gray's, which I eventually closed down. And it was always a dream of mine to open a coffee shop, and I scratched that itch by failing. At least I tried to do it. I don't want to live with regret. It was painful. It was really painful, and I was very upset. And did I want it to fail? No. Do I want things to fail? No. But I'm willing to lean into fail because it's not the harder you work, the luckier you get. It's the more risk you take, the luckier you get.
Yeah, that's a great point. I never looked at it that way, but you're right. You're right. I mean, it's maybe it's both. But if you go back now, let's say when you were back in 18 years old, whatever, how would you change your life right now? I mean, if you were 18 today, I mean, if all these young people listening to this podcast right now.
When you ask that question, I always think two elements to it. One is like, if I was actually talking to the 18-year-old me, I'd be like, it's all going to work out, mate. Just keep going. I wouldn't change a single thing in my personal story. But if I was going to an 18-year-old person today, not only would I remind them about how powerful the opportunities are, stop looking at what you haven't got, start looking at what this generation has got, and lean in. Just go for it. Like, think big. I think sometimes when we're younger, we don't realize how much time we have. You know, when you see someone who's 18, you're like, you've got loads of time. I don't think so. I don't think so. There's a window, I'm going to say very cautiously, up to about the age of 30, before you start having a mortgage and responsibilities, partner, kids, if that's what you're going to do. Those things will really cause you it will be even harder for you to take risk. So like 18, 19, 20, 21, 20, you just go for it. Take a lot of risk, because the worst is you end up back in the spare room with your parents, hopefully, you know, or I just think that you've got time.
Your downside risk is so minimal.
So minimal.
Yeah,
like
so
you should
minimal.
be going for it, like starting something and putting yourself out there, build your social media, like just fight. But don't think you've got time. Don't waste time, because actually that time will be gone quickly. If you ask me how old I am, I still think I'm 32. Like, I cannot believe I'm 50, right? It goes so quick. But people tell you you've got plenty of time at 18. I'm telling you, the 18-year-old, you told me, you have not got a lot of time. You are free. You have more time than you realize. You can work weekends. You can work late nights. I'm not saying don't overwork, but go for it.
Everything is sort of exponentially sped up, right? I mean, you know, before we used to be able to, you know, write a letter and wait a few weeks for, you know, a response. If you call somebody or send them a WhatsApp message and you don't get it like a message back in, you know, 5 minutes, you're like, why the hell isn't this person responding to me? Right? You get so mad and upset. So people's expectations have sort of really sped up. And, you know, that obviously makes you have to be sort of on call every second. You have to sort of be able to react. And sometimes if you're not connected, you might miss an opportunity. You might get a piece of bad news that could have been corrected. I just think that the world is much different than it is today. And I'm sure there's plenty of times where, you know, if you did not, you know, read or respond to an email or a message, an SMS or WhatsApp, whatever, it could have been a disastrous financial result for you. I mean,
of course, yeah. I like being connected. I think, again, this is something it gets talked about a lot in society, about how we're not, what's the word? We're not unplugging enough, right? And I actually think the opposite. I think people just need to have self-discipline. But I want access when I want access. So you need to be self-disciplined with when you go online. That's a self-discipline problem. But I think on the equal side, there's nothing worse for me than slow Wi-Fi. If I'm trying to get a message to someone or something important's happened, or I think of an idea and I can't get that to my team, that's a problem. So I want all the time connectivity, but I also want to be self-disciplined to know, like when I go to bed, I put my phone away, I actually leave it downstairs.
I was just going to ask you that.
I leave it downstairs, right? But do I want to not have internet connection? Of course not. But do I want to be able to have self-discipline and have controls around so I sleep better at night, so I don't use it? Yes. And I think that's the thing. Self-discipline is also a little bit going out the window at the moment. Yeah. People are expecting the state to monitor everything. We've got to discipline ourselves a bit.
My phone is next to my bed at night, and I'll take a phone call if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, because I work in a global environment. I have people, from China, from America. From
Are you wearing
Nigeria.
one of these wristband things?
I have an Oura ring.
Oh, right. Were you checking at 3 o'clock in the morning? What happens to you when you're picking up the phone?
Yeah. Man, I forget. In the morning, I look to see how much. Actually, it works for me. If I didn't sleep that well, I say, well, heck, I feel great. I don't need all that sleep.
Right.
And if I slept a lot and it says, I slept plenty, I feel better. But I always look at the glass half full. But I just, I'm addicted, and I have a client base that really, if I don't pick up the phone when they call me, they'll just call somebody else.
By the way, this is another type of discipline. You've got used to that rhythm.
Yeah. And I don't mind it.
Yeah.
But
you're an optimist. By the way, I've interviewed a lot of billionaires, a lot of very successful people. What I've discovered about all of them, the trait I thought I was personally, it was just my trait, but it turns out this is a trait of nearly everybody I met is successful: optimism. Whatever your setup is, you're lucky to have it. You're lucky to have a customer calling you at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
that could be a sale.
I agree with you.
And that could be an opportunity.
Yes.
Aren't you lucky that someone's actually able to call you at 3 o'clock in the morning? I think people need to see that. Again, that's why my thing with social media is like, oh my God, please stop talking about you can't buy a house. And start realizing you've got a much bigger opportunity.
If somebody's not calling me, somebody's not messaging me, somebody's not emailing me, I'm screwed. Simon, it's been a pleasure talking with you. I really, really appreciate everything you said. I really understand it. I relate to it. And it's been a pleasure really having a chance to talk to you.
Thank you so much for having me. Likewise, I love what you do.
Thank you very much. So, to all of you out there, make sure you stay connected, stay ahead, make sure you stay above all the noise.